See what America is doing to Iran in order to control them. Imagine a world where one of the most powerful nations on earth is using every tool at its disposal: economic pressure, secret operations, military presence, and political alliances to control another nation. The United States has been applying intense pressure on Iran, trying to bend it to its will, while Iran resists with determination, strategy, and pride. What exactly is America doing behind closed doors to dominate Iran? And how is Iran fighting back? Stay with me as we uncover the shocking truths of this high-stakes struggle. The conflict between the United States and Iran did not start suddenly in 2026. The issues that stirred up the war have been building for many years through political disagreements, military rivalry, nuclear weapons concerns, economic sanctions, and the struggle for power in the Middle East. What is happening now is the result of decades of tension rather than a single event. One of the biggest issues between the United States and Iran is Iran's nuclear program. The United States has long believed that Iran is trying to develop nuclear weapons, while Iran has repeatedly said its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes such as electricity and scientific research. Because of this suspicion, the United States and its allies placed heavy economic sanctions on Iran for many years. These sanctions affected Iran's economy, reduced its oil exports, and caused inflation and unemployment in the country. Iran saw these sanctions as economic warfare, while the United States said the sanctions were meant to stop nuclear weapon development. This disagreement over nuclear weapons became one of the main reasons for hostility between the two countries. Another major issue that stirred up the conflict is oil and global energy control. Iran is located near the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important oil shipping routes in the world. A large percentage of the world's oil passes through this narrow waterway. If the route is blocked, oil prices around the world increase, and many economies suffer. During the conflict, Iran threatened to block this route, and this made the situation more serious because it affected not just the United States and Iran, but the entire world economy. The United States wants the route open for global trade, while Iran sees the route as a strategic advantage during conflicts. Power and influence in the Middle East is another major cause of the conflict. The United States has strong alliances with countries such as Israel, Saudi Arabia, and some Gulf countries. Iran, on the other hand, supports groups and governments in countries like Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen. Because of this, both countries have been involved in indirect conflicts for many years through proxy wars. They support different sides in conflicts across the Middle East, which has increased tension between them. The region has become a place where both countries try to show military strength and political influence. The long history of conflict between the United States and Iran goes back to the Iranian Revolution of 1979. During that time, the Iranian government changed and relations with the United States collapsed. American diplomats were taken hostage in Tehran, and since then, the two countries have had very poor diplomatic relations. Over the years, there have been cyber attacks, military threats, sanctions, and political confrontations. The mistrust between both countries has been growing for more than 40 years, which is why any small conflict can quickly become a big crisis. Military presence in the Middle East is also part of the problem. The United States has military bases in several Middle Eastern countries and naval forces in nearby waters. Iran sees this as a threat because American forces are close to its borders. The United States says its military presence is to protect its allies and maintain stability in the region. But Iran believes it is an attempt to surround and weaken Iran. This military tension has led to several confrontations at sea, in the air, and through allied militias. Political reasons also played a role in stirring the conflict. The United States wants to limit Iran's military power, missile development, and influence in the Middle East. Iran, on the other hand, wants to remain powerful in the region and resist American influence. Both countries see each other as a threat to their national interests. The United States is concerned about Iran's support for armed groups in the Middle East, while Iran believes the United States interferes too much in Middle Eastern politics. When military strikes and retaliation began, the situation escalated quickly. Missile attacks, drone attacks, naval threats, and military mobilization increased tensions. The possibility of blocking oil routes and attacking military bases made the conflict very dangerous. The situation also affected global oil prices, international trade routes, and political alliances around the world. Many countries became concerned because a war between the United States and Iran could affect global security and the world economy. The global impact of the conflict is very significant. Oil prices increase when there is tension in the Middle East because many countries depend on oil from that region. Shipping routes become dangerous, airlines avoid certain airspaces, and investors become uncertain about global markets. This means that even countries far away from the conflict can feel the economic effects. The conflict is not just about two countries fighting. It affects international politics, trade, and security. In summary, the issues that stirred up the conflict between the United States and Iran include the nuclear weapons dispute, economic sanctions, oil shipping routes, military presence in the Middle East, political influence in the region, support for different allies, and a long history of mistrust since 1979. All these issues combined created tension over many years, and eventually the situation escalated into military confrontation. The conflict is therefore not caused by one single problem, but by a combination of political, economic, military, and historical issues that have been building for decades. Understanding these causes helps explain why the situation became so serious and why it is difficult to resolve quickly. The conflict between the United States and Iran has brought serious losses to both sides. In war, even the strongest countries suffer losses, not only in military equipment and money, but also in human lives, political stability, and economic growth. The losses from this conflict are military, economic, political, and social, and they affect not just the two countries, but many parts of the world. One of the biggest losses both countries are suffering is military loss. War requires weapons, aircraft, missiles, drones, ships, tanks, and military bases. When these are destroyed in attacks, they cost billions of dollars to replace. Modern warfare is very expensive because one fighter jet alone can cost tens of millions of dollars. Missile defense systems, warships, and military equipment are extremely costly. When military bases are attacked or damaged, it weakens military operations and requires more money and time to rebuild. Both the United States and Iran have lost military equipment in attacks, missile strikes, drone warfare, and naval confrontations. Another major loss is human lives. Soldiers die during missile strikes, air attacks, naval battles, and ground operations. Some soldiers are injured and may never fully recover. Families lose fathers, sons, and brothers. War also affects civilians when infrastructure is destroyed or when fighting happens near cities. Hospitals become overcrowded, and emergency services become overwhelmed. Human loss is one of the greatest tragedies of war, because lives cannot be replaced like machines or buildings. Economic loss is another major problem both countries are facing. War is very expensive to fund. Governments must spend huge amounts of money on weapons, fuel, logistics, intelligence, and military operations. This money usually comes from government budgets that could have been used for education, healthcare, infrastructure, and development. When a country spends too much money on war, the economy can slow down. Inflation can increase, and the value of the currency may drop. Iran is suffering heavily from economic losses because of sanctions and trade restrictions. Oil exports are limited, foreign investments are reduced, and businesses struggle to operate. Prices of goods increase, and the cost of living becomes higher for ordinary citizens. Unemployment may increase because companies cannot operate normally during war and sanctions. Economic pressure is one of the biggest challenges Iran faces during the conflict. The United States also suffers economic losses, even though its economy is very large. War operations overseas cost billions of dollars every month. Military deployment, aircraft carriers, missiles, and troop logistics are very expensive. The government may need to increase defense spending, which increases national debt. War also affects global oil prices and financial markets, which can indirectly affect the American economy and global trade. Another loss both countries face is political and diplomatic loss. War can damage a country's international reputation. Some countries may support one side while others oppose it. This creates diplomatic tension and can lead to new alliances or new enemies. International organizations may criticize military actions, and global public opinion may turn against one of the countries involved in the conflict. Infrastructure damage is another major loss, especially for Iran because war activities are closer to its territory. Military bases, roads, oil facilities, power stations, and communication systems can be damaged or destroyed. When infrastructure is damaged, it affects transportation, electricity, internet, water supply, and general daily life for civilians. Rebuilding infrastructure after war costs billions of dollars and may take many years. There is also psychological and social loss. War creates fear, uncertainty, and stress among citizens. People worry about safety, jobs, food supply, and the future. Soldiers experience stress and trauma from combat situations. Families worry about loved ones in the military. War affects mental health, and the effects can last for many years even after the conflict ends. Global economic loss is another result of the conflict between the United States and Iran. Because the conflict affects oil routes near the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices can increase worldwide. When oil prices increase, transportation costs increase, food prices may increase, and many economies around the world are affected. This means the conflict is not only causing losses for the United States and Iran, but also for many countries that depend on stable oil prices and international trade routes. Another loss both sides face is military fatigue and resource depletion. War cannot continue forever without affecting military strength. Weapons stockpiles reduce, equipment wears out, and soldiers become tired after long deployments. Continuous war reduces readiness for other potential conflicts and puts pressure on military planning and resources. In the long term, war also causes development loss. When countries focus on war, they invest less in technology, education, healthcare, and infrastructure development. This can slow national progress for many years. Young people who could contribute to the economy may instead be involved in war, and resources that could build the nation are used for destruction instead. Both the United States and Iran are suffering many types of losses from the conflict. These include military equipment losses, human lives, economic losses, political and diplomatic problems, infrastructure damage, psychological stress, global economic effects, military resource depletion, and long-term development setbacks. War may sometimes achieve political or military objectives, but it always comes with heavy costs for both sides involved. No country truly escapes loss in war, no matter how powerful it is. The conflict between the United States and Iran involves modern warfare, which means both sides are not only using traditional weapons like guns and tanks, but also advanced missiles, drones, cyber warfare, naval weapons, and air power. Modern war is fought on land, sea, air, space, and even in cyberspace. Both countries have very different military strengths, so the kinds of weapons they use are also different in strategy and purpose. One of the main weapons both sides are using is missiles. Missiles are very important in modern warfare because they can travel long distances and hit targets accurately. The United States uses cruise missiles and ballistic missiles launched from ships, submarines, and aircraft. These missiles can destroy military bases, radar systems, airports, and weapons storage facilities from far away without sending soldiers directly into danger. Iran also uses ballistic missiles and medium-range missiles to target military bases, ships, and strategic locations. Missile warfare allows both countries to attack each other from long distances without direct ground battles. Another major weapon used in the conflict is drones. Drones are unmanned aerial vehicles that can fly without a pilot inside them. They are used for surveillance, intelligence gathering, and attacks. The United States has some of the most advanced drones in the world, which can stay in the air for many hours and carry precision missiles. Iran also produces military drones and has used them for reconnaissance and attacking targets. Drone warfare is very important because drones are cheaper than fighter jets and can be used without risking a pilot's life. Air power is another major part of the conflict. Fighter jets and bombers are used to strike military targets, destroy missile launch sites, and control airspace. The United States has advanced fighter aircraft such as stealth fighters and long-range bombers that can avoid radar detection and strike targets with precision bombs. Air superiority is very important in war because the side that controls the air can monitor enemy movement and attack targets easily. Iran also has air defense systems and fighter aircraft, although not as advanced as those of the United States, and they rely heavily on ground-based missile defense systems to protect their airspace. Naval warfare is also very important in the conflict, especially because of the oil shipping routes near the Strait of Hormuz. The United States Navy uses aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, and guided missile ships. Aircraft carriers are like floating military bases that carry fighter jets and helicopters. Submarines are used to launch missiles and track enemy ships underwater. Destroyers and cruisers are equipped with missile defense systems and long-range attack missiles. Iran, on the other hand, uses smaller fast-attack boats, naval mines, coastal missile systems, and submarines designed for operations in shallow waters. Iran's naval strategy is not to fight large ships directly, but to use fast boats, mines, and missiles to make the sea dangerous for enemy ships. Another important weapon used in the conflict is air defense systems. These are missile systems designed to shoot down incoming missiles, drones, and aircraft. The United States uses advanced missile defense systems on ships and land bases to intercept enemy missiles. Iran also has air defense systems designed to protect its cities, military bases, and nuclear facilities. Air defense systems are very important because missile attacks are very common in modern warfare, and countries must be able to defend themselves from air attacks. Cyber warfare is another kind of weapon being used, even though it is not a physical weapon, like missiles or guns. Cyber warfare involves hacking computer systems, shutting down communication networks, disabling power grids, and interfering with military control systems. The United States has very advanced cyber warfare capabilities and can disrupt communication systems and military networks. Iran also has cyber units that can launch cyber attacks against infrastructure, banks, and government systems. Cyber warfare is dangerous because it can damage a country without firing a single missile. Electronic warfare is also used in modern conflicts. This involves jamming radar systems, disrupting communication signals, blocking GPS signals, and interfering with drones and missiles. If a country jams communication signals, enemy drones may crash or missiles may miss their targets. Electronic warfare is very important in modern battles because many weapons rely on communication signals and satellite guidance. Ground weapons are still used even in modern warfare. Soldiers use rifles, machine guns, rocket launchers, armored vehicles, and tanks. Tanks are heavily armored vehicles with large guns used for ground combat. Armored vehicles carry soldiers safely through dangerous areas. Rocket launchers and anti-tank missiles are used to destroy armored vehicles and bunkers. Even though modern war uses advanced technology, ground forces are still necessary to control territory and protect important locations. Another weapon used in war is precision-guided bombs. These bombs are dropped from aircraft but are guided by GPS or laser to hit targets accurately. Precision bombs reduce the chance of missing targets and are used to destroy specific buildings, military bases, or weapon storage areas. These are different from old bombs that destroyed large areas without accuracy. Naval mines are also used, especially by Iran. Naval mines are explosives, placed in the sea that explode when ships pass over them. These mines can damage or sink ships and make shipping routes dangerous. Mines are relatively cheap compared to missiles and ships, but they are very effective in blocking sea routes and slowing down naval operations. Submarines are another important weapon used in the conflict. Submarines can travel underwater without being detected and can launch missiles or torpedoes at ships. The United States has nuclear submarines that can stay underwater for months and travel long distances. Iran also has submarines designed for operations in regional waters. Submarines are dangerous because they are difficult to detect and can attack unexpectedly. Long-range artillery and rocket systems are also used in warfare. These weapons are used to attack enemy positions from long distances on land. Rocket artillery can fire multiple rockets quickly and hit large areas. These weapons are often used to attack military bases and defensive positions. Satellites are also part of modern warfare. Satellites are used for communication, navigation, surveillance, and missile guidance. The United States has many military satellites used for intelligence and global positioning systems. Satellites help track enemy movement, guide missiles, and coordinate military operations. Without satellites, modern military operations would be very difficult. In summary, the kinds of weapons used by the United States and Iran in modern conflict include missiles, drones, fighter jets, bombers, naval ships, submarines, air defense systems, cyber warfare tools, electronic warfare systems, ground weapons, precision-guided bombs, naval mines, artillery rockets, and military satellites. Modern warfare is very technological and involves many different types of weapons working together. This type of war is very different from wars in the past because technology plays a major role. Wars are now fought not only by soldiers on the battlefield, but also by computers, satellites, drones, and long-range missiles. Both the United States and Iran use the weapons they are strongest in. The United States relies heavily on advanced technology, air power, naval power, and precision weapons, while Iran relies more on missiles, drones, naval mines, fast attack boats, and regional military strategies. Modern war is therefore a combination of technology, strategy, intelligence, and firepower, and the weapons used reflect the strengths and military strategies of each country involved in the conflict. The refusal of Iran to surrender to the demands of the United States is rooted in politics, national pride, military strategy, history, religion, and international power balance. For Iran, surrender is not just a military decision, it is a political and national identity issue. Over the years, Iranian leaders have repeatedly stated that they will not bow to foreign pressure, especially from the United States, because they see it as a matter of sovereignty and independence. One of the main reasons Iran has refused to surrender is national sovereignty. Iran believes that accepting American demands would mean allowing another country to control its military, nuclear program, foreign policy, and regional influence. Iranian leaders have often said that every country has the right to defend itself and develop its technology, including nuclear energy, for peaceful purposes. From their perspective, surrendering would mean losing control over their own country's decisions, which they consider unacceptable. Another major reason is historical experience. Iran's political leadership often refers to past foreign interference in their country, especially during the 20th century when foreign powers influenced Iranian politics and oil resources. Because of this history, Iranian leaders are very sensitive about foreign pressure and do not want to appear weak or controlled by outside powers. This history has shaped their political mindset, making the resistance a central part of their national policy. National pride is also a strong factor. Iran is one of the oldest civilizations in the world, with a long history and strong cultural identity. Many Iranian leaders believe that surrendering to foreign demands would be a humiliation to their nation. They present resistance as a symbol of strength, independence, and national dignity. This message is often used to unite the population and maintain public support during conflicts and sanctions. Another reason Iran refuses to surrender is military strategy. Sometimes countries refuse to surrender not because they are stronger, but because surrender would make them more vulnerable in the future. Iran believes that if they surrender their missile programs, military capabilities, or nuclear program, they may become defenseless against future attacks. From their strategic point of view, maintaining military strength is necessary for survival in a region with many conflicts and powerful enemies. Religion and ideology also play a role in Iran's stance. Iran's political system is strongly influenced by Islamic revolutionary ideology, which emphasizes resistance against oppression and foreign domination. Iranian leaders often frame their resistance as standing against injustice and defending their nation and faith. This ideological belief makes surrender politically and religiously difficult because it would be seen as giving in to pressure rather than standing for their principles. Iran has also made several public statements explaining why they will not surrender to American demands. Iranian officials have often said that they are willing to negotiate, but not under pressure or threats. They insist that negotiations must be based on respect and equality, not sanctions or military threats. Their position is that they will not negotiate while being threatened, because that would set a precedent that pressure and force can control their country. Another statement often made by Iranian leadership is that their military and missile programs are for defense, not for attacking other countries. They argue that because they are surrounded by foreign military bases and hostile countries, they need strong defense systems to protect themselves. From their perspective, giving up their missile program would be like giving up their shield. Iran has also said that sanctions and military threats only make them more determined to resist rather than surrender. Their leaders often claim that economic pressure is a form of economic warfare, and that surrendering under sanctions would encourage more pressure in the future. Therefore, they believe resisting sanctions is necessary to maintain independence. Regional influence is another reason Iran refuses to accept American demands. Iran has influence in several Middle Eastern countries through political alliances and armed groups. The United States wants Iran to reduce this influence, but Iran sees this influence as part of its national security strategy. By having allies and influence in the region, Iran believes it can protect itself from enemies and maintain regional power. Giving up this influence would reduce their power in the Middle East. Another reason Iran maintains its stand is internal politics. If the government suddenly surrendered to foreign demands, it could create political instability inside the country. Hardline political groups and military organizations inside Iran strongly support resistance against foreign pressure. If the government appeared weak, it could lose support internally. Therefore, maintaining a strong position is also important for domestic political stability. Iran has also tried to show that they are not isolated internationally. They maintain relationships with other powerful countries and regional allies. By doing this, they try to balance American pressure and show that they are not alone on the global stage. This gives them confidence to continue resisting rather than surrendering. In many speeches and political statements, Iranian leaders have said that they prefer negotiation with respect rather than surrender under pressure. They often repeat that they will defend their country, their sovereignty, and their people. Their message is usually based on independence, resistance, dignity, and national security. Iran has refused to surrender to American demands because of national sovereignty, historical experience with foreign interference, national pride, military strategy, religious and ideological beliefs, regional influence, internal politics, and the desire to remain independent and powerful in the Middle East. Their leaders believe that surrender would weaken their country politically, militarily, and internationally, so they choose to resist pressure and maintain their position even under sanctions and military threats. Their overall stance can be summarized in their repeated position that they are willing to negotiate, but they will not surrender their sovereignty, defense capabilities, or national independence under pressure from any foreign power. If the conflict between the United States and Iran continues in the same measure over a long period of time, many military experts believe the United States would likely have the overall advantage. This is not simply because of the number of soldiers or weapons, but because of technology, global military presence, logistics, intelligence systems, naval and air power, alliances, and economic strength. Modern war is not won only on the battlefield. It is also won through intelligence, supply chains, communication systems, economic endurance, and long-term strategy. One of the biggest reasons the United States could maintain advantage in a long war is its military budget and economic strength. The United States spends more on defense than any other country in the world. This allows it to continuously produce new weapons, maintain aircraft carriers, submarines, fighter jets, satellites, and advanced missile systems. War is extremely expensive, and countries with strong economies can sustain war longer than countries with weaker economies. Military vehicles require fuel, maintenance, spare parts, and trained personnel. Aircraft need constant maintenance and expensive fuel. Ships require crews, supplies, and repairs. All these cost money, and the United States has the financial capacity to maintain long-term military operations across the world. Iran, on the other hand, has a smaller economy and faces economic sanctions, which makes it harder to sustain a long and expensive war. Another major reason the United States has an advantage is air superiority. In modern warfare, control of the air is one of the most important factors in winning a war. The United States has some of the most advanced fighter aircraft and bombers in the world, including stealth aircraft that are difficult for radar to detect. These aircraft can fly long distances, carry precision-guided bombs, and strike military bases, missile launch sites, communication centers, and supply routes. If one side controls the air, it can observe enemy movements, destroy infrastructure, and support ground and naval operations. Air superiority often determines the outcome of wars because it allows one side to attack freely while limiting the enemy's movement and operations. Naval power is another area where the United States is significantly stronger. The United States Navy is one of the most powerful naval forces in the world. It operates aircraft carriers, destroyers, cruisers, nuclear submarines, and amphibious assault ships. Aircraft carriers are extremely important because they function like floating air bases that can move anywhere in the world. From these carriers, fighter jets can take off, conduct missions, and return without needing land bases. This allows the United States to project power far from its own territory. Nuclear submarines can stay underwater for months and launch missiles from hidden locations. Destroyers and cruisers are equipped with missile defense systems and long-range attack missiles. Iran has naval forces, but they are mainly smaller boats, coastal missile systems, and regional submarines. Iran's naval strategy focuses more on defending its coastal waters and disrupting shipping routes rather than controlling the open ocean. Technology is another major advantage for the United States. Modern warfare relies heavily on satellites, surveillance systems, drones, cyber warfare, electronic warfare, and precision-guided weapons. Satellites allow the military to monitor enemy movement, guide missiles accurately, communicate across long distances, and coordinate military operations in real time. The United States has many military satellites that provide intelligence, navigation, and communication support. This level of technological integration allows for coordinated operations between the Army, Navy, Air Force, and cyber units. Intelligence and surveillance systems also give the United States an advantage. Intelligence involves gathering information about enemy positions, weapons, communication systems, and plans. Surveillance drones and satellites can monitor enemy activity and provide real-time information to military commanders. Good intelligence allows a military to strike important targets and avoid unnecessary losses. In modern warfare, information is sometimes more important than weapons because knowing the enemy's position and plans gives a major strategic advantage. Logistics is another very important factor in war, and it is one of the strongest areas of the United States military. Logistics refers to the movement of troops, weapons, ammunition, fuel, food, and medical supplies. An army cannot fight without supplies. The United States has cargo aircraft, transport ships, supply bases, and logistics networks that allow it to move military equipment anywhere in the world quickly. Even the most powerful army cannot fight if it runs out of fuel or ammunition. Many wars in history were lost not because of weak soldiers, but because of poor supply systems. The United States military has one of the most advanced logistics systems in the world. Military alliances also strengthen the position of the United States. The United States has many allies and partners in different parts of the world. Allies can provide military bases, intelligence information, weapons, funding, and logistical support. In a large conflict, allies may support military operations or provide strategic locations for bases and supply routes. Iran also has regional allies and partners, but not as many powerful global allies as the United States. Alliances are very important in modern warfare because they expand military reach and support. Training and military experience are also important factors. The United States military has been involved in many military operations and conflicts over the past several decades. This means many military commanders and soldiers have real combat experience. Training includes coordination between air, land, sea, cyber, and intelligence units. Modern warfare requires coordination between many different military branches, and training helps ensure that operations are carried out effectively. However, Iran's military strategy is different and should not be underestimated. Iran does not try to match the United States in aircraft carriers or stealth bombers. Instead, Iran focuses on asymmetric warfare. Asymmetric warfare means using different tactics to fight a stronger enemy. This includes missile attacks, drones, fast attack boats, cyber warfare, proxy forces, and defensive warfare. The goal of asymmetric warfare is not necessarily to defeat the enemy in a direct battle, but to make the war long, expensive, and difficult so that the stronger enemy may eventually lose political or public support for the war. Geography also gives Iran some advantage in defense. Iran has mountains, deserts, and large territory, which can make ground invasion difficult. Fighting in unfamiliar terrain is always difficult for foreign forces. Defending your own territory is usually easier than attacking another country. Because defenders know the terrain, supply routes are shorter, and local support may be stronger. Missile warfare is one of Iran's main strengths. Iran has many ballistic and cruise missiles that can target military bases, ships, and strategic locations. Missiles are cheaper than aircraft and can be launched from mobile platforms, making them difficult to destroy. Drone warfare is also part of Iran's strategy. Drones can be used for surveillance or attacks and are cheaper than fighter jets. If the war continues for a long time, the outcome would depend not only on military strength, but also on economic endurance, political decisions, international support, and public opinion. Wars are not always won by the strongest military. Sometimes they are won by the side that can continue fighting longer without collapsing economically or politically. In overall military strength, the United States is considered stronger because of advanced technology, larger military budget, stronger Air Force, stronger Navy, global military bases, satellite systems, intelligence networks, cyber warfare capability, and strong alliances. Iran's strength lies more in defensive warfare, missile systems, drones, regional influence, and asymmetric warfare strategy. So if the war continues in the same measure for a long period, the United States would likely have the advantage in conventional warfare due to technology, air power, naval power, logistics, intelligence, and economic strength. Iran's strategy would likely be to avoid direct large-scale battles and instead make the war long, expensive, and difficult through missiles, drones, proxy forces, and regional influence. The United States military strength is stronger overall because of its global military presence, advanced technology, air and naval dominance, intelligence systems, logistics capability, alliances, and economic power. Iran's strength is mainly regional, defensive, and strategic. The outcome of a long war would likely depend on endurance, strategy, economy, alliances, and political decisions rather than only battlefield victories. Modern war is not decided in one battle, but over time through technology, resources, strategy, and national endurance. If a major war happens between the Iran and the United States, Iran would not rely only on its own military strength. In international politics and warfare, countries often depend on allies, strategic partners, and friendly nations for military equipment, intelligence, economic support, and political backing. For Iran to stand stronger or possibly win a long war, it would need support from powerful countries, either directly or indirectly, through weapons supply, intelligence sharing, economic cooperation, or diplomatic protection. One of the most important countries that could support Iran is Russia. Russia is one of the most powerful military nations in the world, with a large army, advanced missile systems, fighter jets, air defense systems, and nuclear weapons. Russia and Iran have cooperated in the past, especially in Middle Eastern conflicts and military cooperation. Russia could support Iran by providing air defense systems, fighter aircraft, military training, intelligence information, satellite surveillance, and advanced missile technology. Even if Russia does not directly fight, military equipment and intelligence support alone could significantly strengthen Iran's defense capabilities. Another major country that could support Iran is China. China has one of the largest militaries in the world and a very strong economy. China may not directly enter a war, but it could support Iran economically, technologically, and politically. China could continue buying oil from Iran, provide economic support, supply military equipment, drones, radar systems, and cyber warfare technology. China is also very powerful in cyber warfare and electronic warfare, which are very important in modern conflicts. Economic support from China would help Iran survive sanctions and continue funding its military operations. North Korea is another country that could support Iran, especially in missile technology and military weapons. North Korea has strong missile technology and has been known to cooperate with countries on missile development and military technology. They could provide missile parts, military training, artillery systems, and underground military infrastructure technology. North Korea has experience in building underground military bases and missile launch facilities, which could help Iran protect its weapons from air attacks. Syria is also an important ally of Iran in the Middle East. Iran has supported Syria for many years, and Syria could allow Iran to use its territory for military operations, supply routes, and military bases. This would give Iran more strategic locations in the region and expand its operational reach. Syria may not be very strong militarily compared to global powers, but its geographic position is very important strategically. Iraq could also play a role, especially because of its location between Iran and other Middle Eastern countries. Some groups and political factions in Iraq have close relationships with Iran. Iraq could serve as a supply route, intelligence location, or logistical support area. Geography is very important in war, and having friendly territory nearby can help with supply routes and military movement. Lebanon could also indirectly support Iran through armed groups that are friendly to Iran. These groups could create pressure in the region and open additional fronts, which would divide enemy attention and resources. Regional alliances are important in war because they create multiple areas of pressure rather than one single battlefield. Venezuela could support Iran politically and economically. Venezuela has had political tensions with the United States for many years and has cooperated with Iran in oil production, trade, and economic agreements. While Venezuela may not provide strong military support due to distance, economic cooperation and political support in international organizations could help Iran diplomatically. Another country that may support Iran politically is Turkey, depending on political circumstances and regional interests. Turkey is a strong regional military power with a large army, drones, and strategic geographic position between Europe and the Middle East. Turkey often balances relationships between Western countries and Middle Eastern countries, so its role would depend on political decisions, but its involvement could significantly affect the balance in the region. Pakistan is another country that could potentially support Iran in certain ways. Pakistan has a strong military and nuclear weapons capability. Pakistan also has geographic proximity to Iran. While Pakistan usually tries to remain neutral in global conflicts, geographic location and regional security concerns could make it an important country in regional military balance. If several of these countries support Iran either directly or indirectly, the conflict would become much larger and more complex. Military support could include weapons supply, intelligence sharing, satellite data, cyber warfare support, economic trade, oil trade, logistics routes, and political support in international organizations. Modern wars are not fought only by soldiers on the battlefield, but also through economics, technology, intelligence, diplomacy, and alliances. However, it is important to understand that not all support would be direct military involvement. Some countries might only provide economic support, weapons, intelligence, or political backing instead of sending soldiers. Direct war between major world powers would be extremely dangerous and could escalate into a much larger global conflict. The countries that could support Iran based on military strength, political alliances, economic cooperation, and strategic interests include Russia, China, North Korea, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Venezuela, Turkey, and Pakistan. Each of these countries could support Iran in different ways, such as military equipment, intelligence, economic trade, logistics routes, regional alliances, or political support. If Iran receives strong support from powerful countries, it would significantly increase its ability to resist pressure and continue the war for a longer period. In modern warfare, alliances are very important, and wars are rarely fought by one country alone. Support from powerful allies can change the balance of war through weapons, intelligence, economic strength, and strategic positioning. That is why international alliances and partnerships often determine the outcome of large conflicts more than battlefield fighting alone. Writing. War between nations, no matter how powerful or justified each side believes it is, always ends the same way, with loss, pain, economic damage, and generations affected by decisions made in a short period of time. The conflict between these two powerful nations does not only affect them, it affects the Middle East, global oil prices, international trade, and the peace of the entire world. History has shown many times that wars that last too long rarely produce true winners. Instead, they produce destruction, debt, instability, and broken international relationships that take decades to rebuild. For this reason, the best victory for both sides will not be total military defeat of the other, but a strategic agreement that protects their security, their sovereignty, and global stability. Dialogue, negotiation, and diplomacy have ended many conflicts in history that once looked impossible to resolve. Agreements can be reached through neutral countries, international organizations, and peace negotiations that allow both sides to step back without losing dignity or national pride. Peace agreements often involve security guarantees, economic cooperation, regional stability arrangements, and gradual reduction of military tension. Neighboring countries also have a very important role to play in this situation. Countries in the region must understand that when two powerful nations fight, the surrounding nations often suffer the most through refugee crises, trade disruptions, insecurity, and economic instability. Therefore, neighboring countries should not fuel the conflict, but should instead encourage peace talks, mediation, and regional security cooperation. Stability in the region benefits everyone, economically, politically, and socially. War spreads problems, but peace spreads development, trade, education, and prosperity. Outro. The world today is too connected for large wars to benefit anyone. Economies are connected, technology is connected, and security is connected. A war in one region can cause inflation, fuel price increases, food shortages, and political tension in another part of the world. This is why global cooperation and diplomacy are more important today than ever before. Strong nations are not only known by how powerful their weapons are, but also by how wisely they use power to maintain peace and stability. As observers and learners of global events, we must always understand both sides, study history, learn military strategy, understand politics, and most importantly, understand the importance of peace and diplomacy in global leadership. Conflicts may start with weapons, but they are usually ended by negotiation tables, agreements, and mutual understanding. If you found this discussion insightful and you want more deep explanations on global conflicts, military strategy, world power, and international politics, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more interesting and educational videos like this. There are many more topics to explore and many more global strategies and historical events to understand. Stay informed and stay curious, and I will see you in the next video.